I'm working on an 05 Chevy Silverado. It's got the high performance exhaust. Sounds fast, so it's gotta be fast. His complaint is not the check engine light, not the ABS light, not the airbag, and not the fluctuating RPMs. What he's telling me is he's driving along and he's hearing suspension noise, metal. It sounds like metal on metal, he said. I've been driving it. I have not heard that at all. He did say I guess he must have bought the truck, I'm not sure, maybe under a year ago. And when he got it, the person who sold it to him gave him that and said it needed to go on the car. So what he did was, rather than put that on the car, he took the steering wheel that was sitting 180 out and turned it 180. So it's halfway straight, but it drives, he said, feels funny when he drives it. I'm driving along and let me get on the little straight path here. When I let go of the wheel, it pulls hard to the right. Ready? It just wants to go to the right. I haven't heard a lot of metal on metal. I think my next move is to go ahead and get this thing up on the lift. Let's go through everything on the front end, suspension wise, and that steering shaft. And I'm probably gonna go ahead and just pull some codes and see why this idle's fluctuating, and at least let him know that. He don't have to fix it, but at least he knows what the heck's going on with it. So let's get this thing in the shop and let's get it up on the lift. Remember me telling you about the steering linkage in there? It's right here. I was shaking on it and it feels good. Then I happen to look up and I say, damn, someone put an aftermarket intake on it. And I got to thinking it had a fluctuating idle. Noticed it's missing a clamp right here for the hold down. Reached over and look, it's just sitting like this. So basically it wasn't sucking enough air through the mass airflow sensor. It didn't know how to read it and you were getting erratic idle. That's a freebie. All right, let's go ahead and get it up in the air. Let's get this front suspension checked out. One of the easiest ways to check a front suspension is get it up in the air a little bit. Get a thick bar, pipe. I use a massive pry bar, stick it under the bottom, shake it up and down. And this feels pretty tight. All right, so if we look right here, this is the passenger side. He's gonna shake it in and out, and check out this wheel bearing right here. Go ahead. Look at the wheel bearing play. That's probably some of the grinding that he's hearing. Also, I was looking up here, the idle arm. It needs an idle arm. And I don't know who did the suspension work, but there's not a Carter key anywhere. Everything is missing Carter keys. All right, let's shake the other side. Let's take a look at that, Bob. This one's pretty tight. Shake it the other way now. All right, that's good, thank you. So let's carry on down. This is a rusty turd. This is definitely a rust bucket. It has some rust on this bitch. This is your cab body mount right here. That's coming apart. The frame is rusted. Real bad. Look at this cab mount. It's getting ready to rust in half too. Look at this frame on this side. That's why he put on these plastic rockers, hide all the daggone rust. All along everywhere. I know why he's hearing metal. The whole gosh darn thing is squeaking. Look up here. This is around the gas tank area. Evap system right here. I'm surprised it even freaking works. There's probably a code in there, I bet, for that. So that explains why he's hearing so much metal on metal. He's probably hearing the metal fall off the truck as he's driving along. All right, first things first. Let's go ahead and get the right front wheel bearing on. Let me get the idle arm on. I'm gonna get all the Carter keys back like they belong. My son-in-law runs First Team Kia and Subaru. He does all my wheel alignments. Super great company to deal with. If you're ever in the 757 area code and you need a Subaru or a Kia dealer, go check them out. But for right now, let me get some parts ordered. The owner got lucky with this truck. He lost his lug nut tool. Luckily, I had an extra one to fit these here. One thing you do if you change your lug nuts to that security stuff, make sure you keep a good track on where your tool is. Because if you have to go to a shop and they got to replace it and beat them off, you're going to pay an arm and a leg for it. We're going to start by taking the caliper off. That is an 18. Well, you definitely torqued the shit out of that. And broke my damn socket. Snap-on, warranted. You know, the difference between, like I know other people, tool companies, warranty their stuff and you pay a little more for Snap-on. They do last a little bit longer on their sockets, and it's the convenience of having a man come to you rather than you have to go to a store after hours. Because the last thing I want to do after work all day is go track down a broken socket somewhere, where the hell, you know, like either Harbor Freight or whatever. You do pay for the convenience though, but there's nothing wrong with that. These pins are dry as a bone, so we're gonna grease them up when we go back with them. Now I do have other tools I do from other companies and other things like that, but I'm partial to Snap-on in general. It's funny, we've seen, since I've been here, we've been here roughly 86 years. I have seen so many Snap-on dealers come through here. It is crazy. The one we got now, he's really good. Super nice guy. Good Lord. There's no wheel wells in this thing at all. We're just gonna rest that right there. It ain't going nowhere. Brakes are good and fat. And let's see, I don't see any cracking in it. They're fairly new, it looks like. No cracking. That's a good thing. We'll clean up the hardware, grease it, and go back with it. So we got to get the rotor off in order to get that hub assembly out. Next thing we do is go and take the caliper bracket off. Oh, you sucker. That's going to leave a mark. Look right here. That's your noise. That's the grinding noise he's hearing, all right. So it made a liar of me. It wasn't the rust falling off on the concrete that he was hearing. It's definitely got a wheel bearing problem. But I'm sure he was hearing that shit too, I can guarantee it. He's going so fast the rust is blowing off. So talking to the customer, being he bought this truck and looking at the miles that are on it, we're gonna go ahead and do wheel bearings on both sides. He wants to go ahead and invest some money to do it. He's gonna use this truck, I guess, just like on a farm or something like that. That's why he don't care much about the rust. Next thing is take out the axle nut. It's a 36. Get a magnet. There's a washer inside here. Don't forget to take it out. And make sure you go back with it. Once you get it out, take a hammer, a little love tap. Just make sure the axle's loose. We'll unplug the wheel speed sensor. Somebody's got it wire tied all the heck over here. Your new bearing does come with a wheel speed sensor, so make sure you use it. And for this one here, like I say, we're just gonna unplug it. And then we'll wire tie back like they had it. Damn, contacts are not working well today. The bolts that hold the bearing on are a 15. Now this tool here was purchased from a sheet metal shop. This is the best tool I own. It's a piece of aluminum and I use it as an extension. There's only 3 bolts that hold this bearing on. In the perfect world, this will just fall right off. Boom. All right, we'll switch up bits. And just like that, got a wheel bearing off. Now we're going to take a few minutes and clean up the area real good, get all the rust out of here and clean all this up real good before we go back with a new one. That way we know we have a nice good seat on it when I put the new one in there. You don't have to do that. It's just an extra step I like to do. And I do recommend doing it, especially if you're doing these at home yourself. Preventive maintenance, how's that sound? Sounds better when I say it that way. Preventive maintenance. Take a little brake clean, squirt it in there. Get your blower. Kind of gets off any little dirt and debris that's in there. Now we get some sandpaper going there and sand it down. There's all kinds of tools you can have. Like I said, we own a body shop here also, so I have an endless amount of sandpaper. I'm just gonna go with that. 80 grit paper in there and just get a good sand on it just to clean the rust up. So I don't know if any of you guys follow CrossFit, but we're into CrossFit, me and my wife, pretty heavily. But since I've had my operation, I haven't been able to do it as much as I like. And she's still into it, you know, pretty heavy. She's funny. She was in a competition this weekend with another lady, and she'll sit there and tell you, well, I'm not really that competitive. I do it for the fun of it. But let someone stay in front of her, oh my God, fire gets in her eyes. And don't let her say different. She's super competitive. It's kind of funny to watch her a little bit. She's so competitive. But keeps us healthy, keeps us in shape. All right, get that squirted off now. Up in there real good. Get my little zip gun here and clean up the outside. All right, the wheel bearing is a Master Pro, part number 515054. Compliments of Rally Auto Parts, and they are not a sponsor of this video. I just use their parts. So we had to do a little correction on the wheel bearings hub assemblies. The first set that came in weren't for a four-wheel drive. The correct part number is going to be a 515036, and that's the same for left or right. These are for a four-wheel drive. So let's go ahead and get these on the car. We're going to start off by putting anti-seize on it. It's just kind of what I like to use. Some people use regular wheel bearing grease. I'm just a fan of anti-seize. Next goes back your splash shield, or the backing cover, should I say. Just make sure when you put it on, you pay attention how it comes off, because you can reverse it and go like this, and then you're shit out of luck when you put it on. And I see why they had all this crap wire tied up on the wheel speed sensor, because they, like I say, they took down the splash shield, the bulk of it, and there was nothing to put it to, so they just stuck it on like that. So there's a notch here. That's where your wire is going to go through. You got to make sure you get that through there, like this. Lay it out of the way. On the hub assembly bolts, I'm going to use a little bit of blue Loctite on it, just to kind of peace of mind, you know. Damn. Make sure you start them by hand. If you go in there with an air ratchet or ratchet off the get-go, you could probably end up screwing something up, cross-threading your new wheel bearing. You don't want to do that. Once you know you got it going in your way, then you can go back in there with an air ratchet and finish it off. So I was talking to the customer. He wants to fix the truck up. He wants to get all new rockers put in, all the rust on the bottom side taken care of, body mount bolts. Then he wants to go ahead and put a paint job on. I'm not sure what color he wants to go. I'm thinking black again. It would be the easiest thing if he went with black again. Now that I got them all started, we'll go ahead and get them zipped up. If you leave your axle loose, where you can push it back or pull it back some, it is a lot easier to move it back to get to the bolts. So just make sure before you go too crazy with it, you got the splines lined up. There you go, just like that. Now, with the splines lined up, you can push it back a little bit. And like I said, it just makes it easier when you tighten them up. Get your sockets on there. All right, rocking and rolling, baby. Go back with your washer first. Get the axle nut put back on there. Everything looks good so far. We'll get this racing rotor back on there. I always put a lug nut on before I go back with a brake caliper. It just makes it easier. You don't have to fight the rotor flopping all over the place. And that's just a personal preference. It doesn't matter if you do it or not. In my opinion, it's easier. See, I was gonna say opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, but I didn't think that'd be appropriate to say in the video. So if you remember earlier, we took off these guides. I'm gonna go ahead and clean them up a little bit now. Just a little bit. Like I said, we're not going back with new brakes. The brakes look good, but I just kind of want to get some of the corrosion off this before I smack it back on. So with this video here, I switched over to I got rid of the GoPro, dumped that, because I was having so many issues with it. Switched over to it's a V10 they call it. Let me know what you guys think about the video quality. All right, make sure you go back with a little bit of caliper grease where the brakes are going to ride at. So tonight is Halloween. Anybody else out there dressing up besides me? We dress up every Halloween. Don't like how that's going. There we go. Much of the better, much better. So like I was telling you guys earlier, let's make sure you go back with a little caliper grease on the slides here because they were a little bit sticky. Also, there's a dust boot, probably gonna fall off when you're putting it together. Make sure you go back with that dust boot. Kind of can't wait to do the body work on this truck. I think it's gonna turn out cool. All right, go ahead and zip them up once you get them started by hand. Make sure you pump the brakes before you take off just to play it safe, even though we didn't compress the caliper at all. It's just a safety thing you should do. So the only one I can get on there with this wheel speed sensor is the plug right here. Like I said before, they just had it wire tied right here. That's what we're gonna do. The same thing. I called and spoke to him and he said he was fine with this. I don't really recommend leaving the stuff like this because it's, it's just not good. But it's not my truck, it's the customer's decision, and this is what we're going with. Snipperoo. Next thing to do is get the tire on there, take it for our test drive, make sure the wheel bearing sounds good and that wheel speed sensor works. It is an aftermarket wheel bearing, so you just never know about that wheel speed sensor. It could have come in defective. I've seen it before. So the next time you see me, we'll be on a test drive. All right guys, so I apologize. I didn't get to show you the test drive on the Chevy pickup. We took it to the alignment shop, which my son-in-law does the alignments, and the customer picked it up from there, so I didn't get a chance to give you the final ride. But you're gonna have to trust me that this is the right side wheel bearing, hub assembly, and this is the left side. As you can see, taking it apart, this one just fell apart, and this was the bad one. So the front end shop that finished the alignment for me, they did take it for a test drive and they said everything sounded good and the customer picked it up from there. So that's it for this video. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Catch you later.